Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Hello friends, this is Vijay. I welcome you all to the ForumIAS Hindu Daily. In our today's discussion, we are going to see the topics in the slide. The first topic, at the root of India's manufacturing challenge. Here the author have been discussing about the issues pertaining to the India's manufacturing sector. Then the second one, who should own world's lithium. Here we will be discussing about the insights of the article alone. Then the third one is sedition law can be retained but with safeguards. Law Commission in its statement, it clearly explained that we can retain the sedition law, but we need to provide some safeguards. Then the fourth one, Indo-Russian joint venture on Vande Bharat hits hurdle. So this is the fourth topic. Then the last one, yesterday PM Modi and his Nepal counterpart, they actually signed several agreements on energy and transport. So the last article is all about it. Now without any delay, let us dive into the discussion part. This is the first article, at the root of India's manufacturing challenge, right? So let us do a trifurcation here. So with respect to manufacturing sector in India, its share is 17% of GDP, okay, and it provides 12% employment to the people, and its output, as I already explained you, it is 17%, okay. But in the last year 2022-2023, the first advance estimate, it estimated that the growth will be 1.3%, okay. So that's what the article it came in the today's editorial section. Here in the intro part, the author have been discussing that before 1991, what the government had thought. It's only because of the licensure system, what we had followed since independence. Then the sheer domination of the public sector undertakings in the manufacturing sector have pulled back the productivity of the manufacturing sector as a whole. So this is what the government had thought, okay. Once again I explained you, it's all because of the licensure system, then the PSUs. These two factors, it pulled back the productivity of the manufacturing sector. This is what we thought before 1991. But after 1991, LPG reforms, what had happened? We hadn't witnessed enough productivity from the manufacturing sector, but the service sector boom was started, right? Traditionally, each and every economy, they will go through one roadmap. That is, in the initial stage, they will be a agrarian economy, then they will enter the manufacturing sector, then the service sector will come up. So this is how most of the developed economies, they followed their roadmap. But with respect to India, after the independence, we were an agrarian, right? Historically, we were an agrarian economy. After independence, even governments had started enormous initiatives with respect to the manufacturing sector. But in the post-1980s, we entered into the service sector. Okay. So without having a strong bedrock in the manufacturing sector, we entered into the service sector. So this is where the issues came. In the 2000, after the LPG reforms, we hadn't witnessed the productivity, right? So that's what he have been explaining certain issues. Traditionally, in our manufacturing sector, there are systematic issues are there, okay? So the first one is systematic issues in the manufacturing sector. So this is the first thing he have been discussing. Then, with respect to India, the demand, the consumer demand is there, right? So the consumer demand is very low with respect to the manufacturing goods. He is asking the question why. What is the factor behind the lower consumer demand with respect to the manufacturing products means? He is stating that most of the Indians, they have been spending enormous amount on food. So food, right? The expenditure with related to the food, it is very high in India compared to the other economies. So compared to the Western European countries and the Latin American countries, the food expenditure in India is very high. So that's what they couldn't able to afford the manufactured products. So if the if the consumer demand is very low means how we can expect the manufacturing output will be high. So this is what he have been discussing. Then by keeping aside the consumer demand, the domestic consumer demand, the manufacturing sector, they can focus on the export oriented growth, right? In the 1970s, East Asian economies, today they are highly developed, but in the 1970s, they were focusing on the export oriented growth, right? So why can't the industries in India, they can't focus on export oriented growth? Means there are some issues are there. The first one is we don't have export competitiveness compared to the other countries, right? Then the logistics cost is very high. In India, the logistics cost is 13%. But in other countries, the rest of the global countries, they are having an average of 8%. So these are all the issues which have been pulling back the export competitiveness of the manufacturing sector in India. Then with respect to the North Indian industries, he have been stating that North Indian industries, they can't afford to do enormous exports because there are some issues are there. That's also logistics issues only. But the thing is, the port turnaround time is very high. In India, the port turnaround time is extremely high compared to the rest of the ports. So this is another one factor. Then the power, then the knowledge, what we are supposed to have, these all have been pulling back the potential of the manufacturing sector. Then the third issue, as we all well known, is the skill. So Indians are poorly skilled. This have been reflected in various reports, especially with respect to the school education. The Pratham, the Asar report, it clearly stated that the Indians have been lacking the reading ability and the numerical capability. So this is what it had been stated in the Pratham. The then Planning Commission, they also stated very clearly that only 5% of the Indians are possessing the skills required for the industrial production. So which means 95% of the population, they are not focusing on the skill development. So these are all the issues which have been pulling back the potential of the manufacturing sector. Let me tell you once again, the first one is inherently we are having systematic issues in the manufacturing sector. So this is the first issue. Then the second one, the price what the Indians are paying for the food. So it have been pulling back the consumer demand for the manufactured goods. So this is the second one. Then the third one, we don't have sufficient skills among the human resources. So these are all the three issues which have been pulling back the productivity of the India's manufacturing sector. So he have been asking the government not to focus on the legal reforms alone, but we need to bring the structural changes in the economy. Then only the manufacturing sector will attain its potential. Because to become a $5 trillion economy, we are supposed to have at least 22 to 24% share of manufacturing in the GDP. Right now, we are having only 17%, right? So therefore, to attain the state of 22 to 24% of manufacturing productivity, we need to focus not only on the legal reforms, but also on the other structural reforms like enhancing the skill development, right? And we need to enhance the purchase power of the people. So these are all the issues government need to focus like that. The author have been advocating in the conclusion part. Right? Now with this note, let us move on to some value addition. What are the challenges for the manufacturing sector? So inadequate tech-based infrastructure. The fundamental of the manufacturing sector is innovation, right? We are lacking the innovation. Therefore, we don't have any sophisticated technology for production to bring the competitiveness in the industry. So this is the first challenge we are facing. Then the second one, the MSMEs. The MSME sector, it appears to have less favorable access to credit and higher cost for working capital compared to the medium and large scale industrial and service sectors. Especially after the demonetization and the rollout of the GST, the MSME sector have been facing enormous issues. And these days, they are not getting proper access to the credit because their turnover and all slumped. So that's what they couldn't able to get the sufficient credit. And guys, with respect to the MSME, they are actually responsible for 36% of the output in the manufacturing sector. And they are providing employment to 110 million people in India. So MSME is the fundamental of the manufacturing sector, but the uncalculated demonetization and the GST rollout, decisively it impacted the MSME. So this is the another one challenge we are facing here. Then there is a lack of trained and skilled labor in the manufacturing sector in India, which limits the growth of the sector. As we have seen in the article, the Planning Commission, it stated very clearly that only the 5% of the Indians are having the skills which are required by the industries. Then the fourth one, the sector is often plagued by poor supply chain management, which can lead to inefficiencies and increased cost. As I already told you, in the logistics, we are incurring 13% of the cost for the logistics, right? For transferring the goods from one place to another, we are incurring enormous cost compared to the rest of the economies. So the other economies, they are spending only 8 rupees for every 100 rupees. But we are spending 13 rupees for every 100 rupees. So this is the another one challenge. So if we are making reforms in the logistics sector means we can make the product much more competitive. Then the last one, India's manufacturing sector faces intense competition from other countries, which can make it difficult for the domestic business to compete on the global market. This is obviously true, but to make the goods in better competition, to make the export competitiveness, we need to overhaul the innovation sector. Because if we are innovating in a large scale means, then the technology will be availed, so the production cost will be lowered. That's how we can achieve the export competitiveness. What we can do to enhance the competitiveness of the manufacturing sector? The first one, investing in infrastructure. As I already told you, first we can bring down the logistics cost. For that, we need to invest in better roads and the capable ports and streamlined power supply. It will attract more investment from the abroad. Also, these investments will bring the technology. So that's how first we need to make an investment in infrastructure. Then the second one, encouraging the development of export-oriented manufacturing. It could help Indian business tap into new markets and increase their competitiveness. As we have seen already in this East Asian economy, they actually oriented their growth towards the exports. Therefore, in India also, for each and every 100 kilometer, we are having several products. So we can orient the product towards the exports. That's how we can bring down the production cost. And in the international market, this lowering of the production cost will increase the product competitiveness, right? So the third one, supporting research and development in the manufacturing sector and promoting the adoption of new technologies and process could help drive innovation and boost productivity. And in China, they actually did reverse engineering to gain their technology prowess, right? So in India, we are getting huge investments from abroad, but the investment, we should ensure the investments is coming along with the tech transfer. Then the fourth one, providing more securities for training and skill development could help address the shortage of skilled labor in the manufacturing sector and increase its competitiveness. As it said in the article, we don't have any standardization test in India. In US, you might have known about the GRE, GMAT and all for the PG courses, right? So these all exams are standardization courses. So like that, we don't have any standardization courses for selecting the better human resource for training them in the institutes. So this is what it have been stating in this point. Then the last one, simplifying and streamlining regulations could help reduce the burden on the business and encourage more investment in the manufacturing sector. And here we can take Telangana model. So since the bifurcation from Andhra Pradesh, they are ranking number 1 in the ease of doing business report. And except 1 year, in all the 9 years, they were standing in the number 1 position. So what are the things they are following means, they are actually having a single window clearance. Then for the land allotment and all, they are having a proper land banks. So this is how they have been streamlining the manufacturing sector in their territory. Like that, we can take glimpses from Telangana government and we can implement the provisions in the large scale over the India. So that's it guys. With this note, let us move on to the next article. And guys, this is the second article. Who should own the world's lithium? So here in India, we had found enormous resource of lithium in J&K, right? So the article, it have been providing some insights to the government. And here they have been stating that right now, Indian EV market is around 383 million US dollar. Okay. But by 2030, it is expected to reach some 152 billion US dollars. So this is what they had predicted. Also, India had imported some 450 million units of lithium batteries, which valued around 6,000 crores from various countries. But among them, almost 60% of the batteries we exported from China. Okay. So this is what it had been discussed here. And here they had given that who should own these batteries. In 2013, Apex Court judgment they clearly stated that if it is found in the private land means, then the concerned individual should be given the right and responsibility to own the wealth. This is what the Apex Court had stated in its 2013 judgment. Now let's come here. How do other countries manage lithium reserves? Here they had given two case study. The one is Chile and another one is Bolivia. Okay, so one is Chile, one is Bolivia. Two countries are Latin American countries and they are a part of lithium triangle: Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. These three countries are a part of lithium triangle and Chile and Bolivia part of it, right? So here the author, he had taken two countries and he have been discussing about the regulations what they are following in these Chile and Bolivia. And with respect to Chile, the article have been stating that they considered lithium as a strategic reserve. They consider lithium as a strategic reserve. So right now they are engaging the private entities in its exploration, but the public, else the government, is having a holdover. So under the public regulation, the private entities are allowed to explore and refine the lithium in Chile. And here they also stated that in the future they will also enter the public-private partnership, but the existing contracts will be respected. This is what stated by the Chile government. Now let's come to Bolivia. With respect to Bolivia, they actually enacted a 2009 new constitution. They enacted a very new constitution in the year of 2009, and according to that, all the reserves in the Bolivia, it belongs to the state and there won't be any public participation. So this is what the Bolivian constitution have been stating, and it gave the state the control, the direction, the exploration and exploitation of all the minerals in its territory. So this is with respect to the Bolivia, but this is the issue which have been pulling back the productivity of the lithium sector in Bolivia. Before 20 years, they explored the lithium resource in their territory, but till today they hadn't achieved the potential what they are supposed to achieve. So now let me give you another one example, right? It hadn't given in this article. Let me give you one example which pertains to Norway. Norway is maintaining oil fund. Okay, Norway is maintaining oil fund. What it is? We all well know Norway is having enormous fossil resources. There are numerous companies, they are involving in the exploration of oil in the Norwegian Sea. So that's what the Norway constitutes oil fund, and it collects the charges from these companies and it have been pooling in this fund. And this fund, they can provide the social cost to the citizens for the next 300 years. Okay, so that much fund they are having in the oil fund. So each and every citizen, they are owning almost 3 million US dollars in its Norway oil fund. So if we are separating the oil fund means Norway can provide 2 to 3 million US dollar to each and every citizen. So this is another one example how we can tailor the mineral exploration in India. Now let's discuss what is given here. Here they had stated that India's mineral wealth mostly mined from the regions with high levels of poverty, environmental degradation and lax regulation. Example, we can take Chota Nagpur Plateau, right? So that's what the article have been insisting the government to take a cautious approach on lithium exploration, whom we should allow, whom we are not supposed to allow. So this is what the article have been insisting the government to do in the future. Now with this note, let us move on to the next article. This is the third article, guys. Sedition law can be retained but with safeguards. The Law Commission. Law Commission, it clearly stated that we can retain the 124A of the IPC, but we can make certain amendments to it to ensure the safeguards, because most of the governments, they have been misusing this sedition law, right? So that's what it have been considered as a draconian law in Indian history. Here the Law Commission, they had stated that we can bring certain provisions which are analogous to the section 196.3 of the section 196.3 of CRPC, Criminal Procedure Code. Okay, so here what they had keeping means, if we are filing the case means we need to get the approval from either the central government or the state government. Like that, we need to bring the safeguards for sedition law also. Like that, the chairman of the 22nd Law Commission, Justice Rituraj, have been stating. So this is what it had been given here. Further, if we are lifting the 124A of IPC means any expression, here they had given very clearly that any expression that incites violence against the government would invariably be tried under the special laws and counter-terror legislation, which contain much more stringent provisions to deal with the accused. Especially we are having UPA Act, right? Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Then TADA we were having. These acts, they are having more draconian provisions than the section 124A. So this is what it had been stated here. Now let us have a brief recap over the section 124A IPC. What it states, it defines sedition as an offence committed when any person by words, either spoken or written, or by signs. So if you are showing any signs of incitement means that will also amounted to the sedition. Okay. Then apart from that, here they had given the visual representation or otherwise brings or attempts to bring into hatred or contempt or excites or attempts to excite disaffection towards the government established by the law in India. So it is a very broader concept. So if the government is determined to file the case under the section 124A means they can file it. There is no safeguard for the common citizen. And in most of the cases, the political vendetta is the reason behind the filing of section 124A. Then here they had given that disaffection includes disloyalty and all feelings of the enmity. However, comments without exciting or attempting to excite hatred, contempt or disaffection will not constitute an offence under this section. But it hadn't been followed in most of the cases. That also we should know. Then what is the punishment for the sedition? Primarily, it is a non-bailable offence. Okay, we can't get the bail once we file the case. If the state apparatus filed a case under the section 124A means. And the imprisonment, it will range from 3 years to a lifetime. Along with that, the fine also may be imposed, right? Then, a person charged under this law is barred from a government job. This is a general provision. If the citizen is filed under any case means, he will be barred from the government job. Then they have to live without their passport and must appear in court at all times as and when required. So, the government, they will withhold your passport also. So, these are all the punishments which are given under the section 124A of the IPC. Now let us discuss about the significance of section 124A IPC. In our past discussions, we have seen the negative impact of section 124A IPC on Indian political landscape. And here the first significance is reasonable restrictions. As we all well know, in the fundamental rights, between article 14 to 21, the constitution have been imposing various restrictions, right? Because it is very cautious that one man's freedom should not become the other man's burden. So that's what under article 19.2, we are having a reasonable restrictions on the freedom of speech. So the section 124A IPC, it have been upheld the reasonable restrictions what the Constitution Assembly was imposed in the Article 19.2. Then the second one, maintaining unity and integrity. In the past, especially after independence, several secessionist forces were operating in India. So to combat against those secessionist forces, the section 124A IPC was retained. Then thirdly, maintaining stability of the state. It helps in protecting the elected government from attempts to overthrow the government with violence and illegal means. So we all well know, we can protest against the government in a non-violent way. But if anyone is resorting to the state apparatus in a violent way means, they can be arrested with the help of section 124A IPC. So that's it guys. With this note, let us move on to the next article. And guys, this is the fourth article. India-Russia joint venture on Vande Bharat train hits hurdle. So we all well know, there is a joint venture between Russia and India. From Russia side, they were having the Transmash Holding Private Limited, and from India we were having Rail Vikas Nigam Limited. So these two entities, they were entered into a joint venture for producing the Vande Bharat trains, and the cost of production is 3.63 billion. So almost 30,000 crore. Okay. So this 30,000 crore, they will also spend for maintenance. So what is the issue? What is exactly the issue means? We all will know since February 2022, the Russian-Ukraine war have been going on. And there were a lot of sanctions were imposed on Russia. It actually affecting the spare parts supply chain of the Vande Bharat Express. With respect to Vande Bharat, yes, obviously we are producing the Vande Bharat trains under the Make in India initiative, but not every spare parts is indigenous. So Vande Bharat, it's almost is having 82% indigenous spares, and for 18% spares, we are depending on the West European countries, then the American countries, then the Russia. So Russia, it bidded for the lowest quote in the tender. So that's what it got the order for the production of the rolling stocks and some maintenance spares. Now with the sanctions imposed by US and Russia, it have been affecting the spares what India is supposed to do. Anyway, it is not very important for your prelims, but you should know something which is happening some 1000-2000 kilometers away from India have been affecting the railways in India. So this is the thing you need to know. It will give you a big picture of the integrated world. So that's it, guys. Now let us have a brief recap about the Vande Bharat trains. So Vande Bharat Express, it is indigenously designed, manufactured semi-high speed and self-propelled train that is touted as a next major leap for Indian Railways in terms of speed and passenger convenience since the introduction of Rajdhani trains. So after the Rajdhani trains, the highly sophisticated train is Vande Bharat Express. The Vande Bharat was manufactured by ICF Integral Coach Factory, which is in Chennai, as a part of Make in India program. As I already told you, here we are not following 100% indigenous production. 82% spares are indigenous and 18% spares are imported from abroad nations. Then what is the future we are having? They can operate without a locomotive. Here in the image you can see this is the locomotive of the Rajdhani. Okay, this is the Rajdhani train. Here is the locomotive. But with respect to the Vande Bharat, we are actually infusing the propulsion system in its operation. So each and every compartment in the Vande Bharat, it can produce the energy. So the pantograph is nothing but the device which will be standing above the locomotives. You can see in the railways, right? So that will be a pantograph. And here in Vande Bharat, each and every compartment will be having a pantograph because here the distributed propulsion system have been functioning. And with the help of this distributed propulsion system, the Vande Bharat Express, they can attain the maximum speed of 160 km per hour. And this distributed propulsion system, it have been aiding the Vande Bharat Express to attain the faster acceleration and deceleration. And it have been reducing the journey time by 25 to 45%. So here with respect to the Vande Bharat Express, we are having an intelligent braking system and it is having the power regeneration capacity. So now let us see what is the power regeneration capacity we have found in the Vande Bharat Express. And this is the braking system, guys. This is the regenerative braking system, which is the one we are keeping in the Vande Bharat Express. And in recent times, we are infusing the regenerative braking system in EV vehicles also. So here what is the principle? We all well know the kinetic energy will be there in the wheels, right? So while braking, the motor, the electric motor will be acting as an alternator. Alternator means nothing, generator. So it will be acting as a generator and it will transfer the kinetic power in the wheels to the electric power to the battery. In between that, we are keeping a controller because we are supposed to transfer the direct current to the battery. That's what we are keeping a controller. In controller, the alternate current from the generator will be converted to a DC and it will be get stored in the battery. So whenever the systems in the vehicle requires the power, this battery will be provided. So this is the principle of regenerating braking system. Now with this note, let us move on to the next article. This is the last article, friends. India-Nepal signs pacts on energy transport. Yesterday, PM Modi and his Nepal counterpart Pushpa Kamal Dahal, they both signed various agreements on energy and transport. The first one, they actually initiated the Putkot Harnali hydro project. Then they signed an agreement on Lower Arun project. Then they inaugurated the Batnaha to Nepal Custom Yard cargo train. Then ICPs were inaugurated in Nepal Gunj and Rupaidiha. So ICPs means integrated checkpost. Then there was a Bhumi Puja for phase 2 of Motihari Amalganj petroleum project. Apart from these agreements, Nepal will transport its electricity production to Bangladesh with the help of Indian grids. So with the help of India, Nepal will be exporting its power to Bangladesh. India will also import 10,000 megawatt of electricity from Nepal. So these are the groundbreaking agreements it was happened yesterday. Now with this note, let us move on to the next slide. With respect to Indo-Nepal relation, in the domain of trade, we are having a trade value of almost 58,000 crore. So within that, Nepal constitutes the exports of 3,500 crore, whereas India constitutes the export value of 54,300 crore. Then with respect to connectivity, series of MOUs were signed in the past itself between both the governments for laying an electric rail track linking the Kathmandu with Rasol in India. Then India, it has been providing series of developmental assistance to Nepal for improving its infrastructure, health, water resource, education, then rural and community development. Then with respect to Nepal, we are having a cultural relation since historical times. So India has signed 3 sister city agreements for twinning of Kathmandu, Varanasi, then Lumbini and Bodh Gaya, then Janakpur and Ayodhya. Then with respect to electricity and irrigation, in the past we signed agreement for developing the Pancheshwar project on the river Mahakali. So it is almost 1300 megawatt. So here both India and Nepal will be investing, but India's investments constitutes 90%. So Nepal will be investing only 10%. And the Arun 3 hydro project, it is a run-off river project. So it is a part and parcel of the agreement what we signed yesterday. That's it guys. Let us have a brief recap on what we have seen in our today's news discussion. The first one is about the manufacturing sector. It came in the editorial page, where the author have been discussing about the 3 issues pertaining to the manufacturing sector. Then the second article is with respect to the lithium, where we had discussed about what should be the India's course with respect to the lithium exploration. Then the third article is about the sedition, where we have seen about the basic tenets of the sedition and the significance. Then the fourth article is about the Indo-Russian JV with respect to the Vande Bharat Express. Then this is the last article. Here we have seen about the agreements what the Indian PM and the Nepal counterpart had signed yesterday and the basic facts of Indo-Nepal relations. Now with this note, let us move on to the question section. This is the first question. Which one of the following makes a tool with a stick to scrape insects from a hole in a tree or a log of wood? So generally they are asking which of the following animal have been using the tool, which is having the knowledge of using the tool. This is the basic question they have been asking. It came in the prelims 2023, and we all well known, apart from human beings, only the apes are having the knowledge to use the tools. So orangutan, it is the part and parcel of the apes. So orangutan is the right one for the question number 1. This is the second question. Which one of the following statement best reflects the chief purpose of constitutions of a country? The first statement, it determines the objective for making of necessary laws. Then the second one, it enables the creation of political offices under government. Then the third one, it defines and limits the powers of a government. Then the last one, it secures social justice, social equality and social security. We all well known, constitution have been limiting the powers of the government. So that is the right one. And apart from that, constitution also restricts the freedom of individuals that we have seen under the article 19.2, it have been imposing reasonable restrictions on the freedom of individuals, right? So answer option C is the right one. It have been imposing the limitation of power not only on the government but also on the citizen. That you should know. Now with this note, let us move on to the next question. With reference to the ancient South India, Korkai, Pumbuhar, then Mushiri were well known as option A, capital cities, option B, ports, option C, centers of iron and steel making, then option D, shrines of Jain Tirthankaras. If you are having knowledge about the Sangam literature means, then you will be answering this question. The right answer is option B. And these Korkai, Pumbugar, these Muchiris were ports of the Pandyas and Chola kingdoms. Therefore, the answer option B is the right one for the question number 3. That's it, guys. We arrived at the end of the discussion. Thank you for your patience. Please subscribe us and press the like button. Let me catch you in another discussion tomorrow. Bye.